Hello, my name is Camilla and I'm the founding partner of OHU Development, and today I'm going to share with you a very short introduction into OHU. This presentation was prepared for the Ministry of Awesome's Coffee and Jam on March 27th. Before I get started, I'll share a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Colorado and I'm trained as an architect, but I currently see myself as an entrepreneur that brings together architecture, property development, and community development. I recently did a podcast with Stephen Moe. He interviewed me for his Seeds podcast. And if you want to know any more about me, that was a great hour in-depth discussion. And I will put the link below this video on YouTube. I moved to Christchurch in 2011 to be a part of the rebuild and to really lean into what it meant to be creating a 21st century city. Christchurch is going through a pivotal period of change in a compressed period. It's building in 10 years what it would otherwise build in 40, and that becomes a very interesting place to test and experiment with ideas, which is what brought me to Christchurch. OHU in Te Reo means Office for Holistic Urban, OHU in Te Reo means people working together, and it also stands for Office for Holistic Urbanism. The intention there is to create a bicultural meaning and to really honor that we're coming from different cultures and they can gently weave together and correspond. So to get started, I thought I would situate where OHU sits within this kind of context of change. And currently, I think many believe, myself included, that we're moving from the production age and into the age of belonging, which is I think, evidence of structural change in our society. A lot of that is showing up in the face of, or in the guise of disruption. And what I have listed here is a series of what I call characteristics of that change. And what we're starting to see is cognitive shifts in our understanding at a societal scale. So to explain that a little bit, we've lived in an era, an urban age, where things were separated. And by that I mean you lived in one place, you worked in another, and you played in another. And today what we're seeing is a convergence. Those things are coming back together. And we're creating overlap in activities. And it's in that overlap that connection often happens and meaningful relationships are developed. We are also moving from an extractive economic period in time to what I see as a regenerative period in time. And that means our economic structures are starting to not just extract resources to create an income, but they're deriving income from resources, but they're replenishing the resources at the same time. It also is a way that we can actually create, let's say, thriving economies, not at the degradation of our environments and or our social well-being. We also see that our identity is changing. We used to believe that our identity was related to what job we did. We would often ask, what job do you do or what do you do? And we're starting to see it's more shifting towards what communities do you belong to, which is quite an interesting and very subtle shift, but starting to become more and more evident. We also see that in the production age, it was all about production. So it was rote learning in our early education: memorize, regurgitate, produce, repeat. And now what we're seeing is our learning and our production is much more creative. We're not really doing the same thing twice. And often we need to develop strong communication skills and critical thinking skills. And it's in collaboration with others that we develop creative solutions for current ideas and problems. So it's in this stage change, in this transformation period, that OHU is, let's say, occupying. And what we're looking for is to develop property in a way that becomes a bridge from the production age and into the age of belonging through collective ownership and community building. We have three purposes currently, mostly because I believe purpose is discovered and it's not crafted in the beginning. And so we're leaving it open to really discover our truly profound purpose, which I think will mature over time. So this is our stepping off point. We believe that we're doing building communities by building buildings. And I really saw that for the first time when I worked with the Palette Pavilion, the Gap Filler team for the Palette Pavilion. And it was in that project where I saw that we can build a community by building a building. And actually the community was far more profound as an outcome than the building itself. And then For the second purpose, we're creating connected spaces, and I point to the exchange, which brings together production, showcasing, and the public in order to in one environment where you actually start to see a connected space and how those can intertwine and support a community's purpose, which in that case is to cultivate a creative ecology. And then the third one, which is a little bit more, let's say, challenging to unpick, but it's about creating equitable distributions of wealth relative to contribution. And this is an area, I think, for great innovation at this stage. I often use the word community, and when I use it, I define it as a group of people working together on a common purpose. Many people will use community in different ways, and I think it's important for us to understand in which way we're using community. We have three kinds of projects that we lead, that OHU will initiate, and projects that we partner on. People will come to us with ideas and be looking for partnerships, and projects that we support. So often projects just need one little piece in order to move them forward, and we can create opportunities for that with our work. We have a range of different projects. This is an example of that range. All of them hold true to the three purposes I shared with you earlier. This is an example of the various projects that we're currently working on. Tuminako is a mental health facility. It's a place for recovery and healing from mental illness, as opposed to a place for treatment. It's a kind of a shift away from institutional treatment and more towards an ethos of healing. We'll be developing Exchange 2.0, which is basically moving into a building that we can own and have a greater variation of spaces. Collett's Corner is in Littleton, and it's a mixed-use development of about 2,500 square meters, and that will be either an intergenerational housing development or a place of attraction to bring visitors to Littleton. We're currently exploring two options, and since checking that with the local community to see what they would like to collectively own and invest in Littleton. We worked with the Christchurch EnviroHub to help them develop their business case. It's a group of 40 environmental organizations that would like to co-locate and build their own co-working space. We're also partnering with a group to develop a community-owned solar grid. We're looking at a number of co-housing projects, some of which we might partner on and some of which we might lead. And then a project we supported in a very early stages was to link up the Tiny House Society with one of the lawyers from our legal team to help them develop their early legal documents, inform their society. So I give you this range to show that there's a number of different community-owned assets that we can support to develop and or lead and or partner on. But a common among them is this notion of collective ownership and a new relationship with property ownership. We have two projects we're leading with right now, or starting with in greater intensity, and the other ones will stair-step in. That's Tuminako and Collett's Corner, so you can keep an eye out for these because you'll start to see some opportunities to get involved. What we've found over the last year and a half since we've started to OHU is that there's four different, let's say, pillars that we call them pillars that different projects need. And some need one and some need all four, and each one of them needs a kind of a different menu of these. In the first instance, in order to take an idea through implementation, you need some pretty basic property development skills. That is, what are the different phases? When do you do costings? Which people do you bring in at which times? And how do you make sure you can develop a property development so that it's financially feasible and it also serves its purpose? Then there's the two pillars which are closely intertwined, which are the legal and the financial structures. What we're working on with the legal structures is how we move away from legal documents that protect you from me and me from you, and towards legal documents that create agreements to work together. And so we have a group of 5 law firms who are working on, let's say, the commons of legal documents to support collectively owned assets. And if we create the legal structures, we also need to intertwine them with the financial structures that create an equitable distribution of wealth. And there's quite a bit of innovation, I think, to still be had in that territory. At the core and at the root, I would say, of all of each of these projects is kind of a more ephemeral concept of community building and community weaving. And that's the invisible social architecture that brings together social cohesion within each of these communities. And we believe that that's designed, and we believe that if we can articulate it, we'll have a better ability to create it in a way that it best serves the community that it supports. And so we do quite a bit of work with various communities to understand what their social architecture or their social structures are, so they best support the internal social cohesion of their communities. There are a number of ways to be involved. One is to stay informed simply by joining our newsletter, and you can do that online by signing up for it. You can join a project. We will be posting on our website and through our newsletter a number of different projects and sharing what aspects you can be involved with. You could support a project if you're an organization and you have skills that you would like to offer that align with the notion of building communities. Please do get in touch. We have what's called the Aligned Organizations group that we're starting to form. If you're interested in starting a project, definitely get in touch. We're certainly open to entertaining various ideas and supporting people with projects of this nature. If you are interested in investing in one of the projects for an equity stake, definitely stay informed through our newsletter and or get in touch. There will be 2 projects coming up for investment, and that's both Tumanako and Colette's Corner. And if you, in the long term, we'll be developing let's say an OHU fund where you'll be able to have, let's say, it's a sidecar fund where you'll be able to invest across many projects at an early stage. And so that's something that we'll be getting off the ground sometime in the next year. That's the short version of OHU development as it is today. If you have any questions or you'd like to get in touch, I'm always available for a coffee, and by all means get in touch. My email is camilla@ohu.nz, and thank you for your time.